CSGO vs Valorant, a debate which has blossomed lately as the newcomer Valorant, released by Riot Games, is really gaining in popularity. Prior to Valorant, CSGO and Counter Strike in general had little competitions in terms of 5v5 strategic FPS comp games. But it seems like since the release of Valorant, they have been giving CSGO a run for that top spot, and it got me thinking. I was a big time player of CSGO, and played a bit of Valorant myself, and the question popped up in my head. Which is the generally better game? Before I give my opinion, I'll give you a bit of a background on my comp experience in these games, to at least provide a little validity to my words. I have over 1,000 hours on CSGO, and have peaked on MGE in basic matchmaking. And for Valorant, I actually haven't played it too much, but did peak Diamond 2 in competitive, so I'd say I'm pretty decent at these games. But judging these games, I won't really be giving my own insight or opinion too heavily. I'll just be providing some opinions and facts based mainly on the gameplay aspect of the game that I identify that is better in each game. I'll formulate my own opinion based on facts and opinion, but it's up to you to formulate your own opinion too based on the stuff I have stated. I'll put timestamps for each individual point, and anyway, without further ado, let's get right into the analysis. Okay guys, with the analysis, we will be focusing on mainly gameplay aspects of the game. Gameplay is the most integral part of these games, and I divided gameplay into different portions. Firstly, which game is better for casual play, competitive play, balance, and basically how well it runs. Anyway, I'll start off with casual side of these games, and I think it's pretty obvious that CSGO will edge out in terms of casual gameplay, and this is just due to the amount of variety available to play casually. For Valorant, really, the only casual ways you can play the game is just playing normal games, Spike Rush, or custom, but there isn't that much variety. But in terms of casual gameplay in CSGO, it has so much more to offer to people who just want to mess around. They have casual modes like Demolition, Arms Race, and exclusive operation modes like Flying Scoutsman, which are honestly some very fun modes. On top of that, CSGO has plenty of community servers that are very popular in modes like surfing, b-hop maps, and many others to offer hours of fun with friends on top of the many available workshop maps you can download, which could appeal to friends by playing those story maps, and it's quite clear that for a casual gamer, CSGO is a much more optimal experience. Next is competitive play, and this is a tough one. Just based off esports and establishment, CSGO wins hands down. But looking at the average competitive scene, more specifically matchmaking, we see a lot of issues. CSGO has always experienced a large cheater problem, which has been combated by things like trust factor and prime matchmaking, but having to pay for a better competitive experience, especially Premier mode, the new refined competitive experience, people don't really want to spend money on a free game. And having to pay for a better competitive experience kinda sucks. Or having to resort to a third-party software like Faceit or ESCA just shows that the average competitive scene is quite lacking in CSGO. Valorant may not have an established pro scene as of yet, but their competitive mode, in my opinion, outbeats CSGO. In my experience, I have never encountered a blatant cheater in Valorant, and maybe just a few encounters with Smurf, but that's bound to happen. I also think the rank system is a lot better in Valorant. I do wish they adopted the rank system from League, but it's much more apparent in Valorant if you are near a rank up, since it shows the amount of MMR you gain or lost based on the arrow, while in CSGO, you kind of just guess if you are close to ranking up or not. Valorant comp as of now does lack some quality of life changes, like only picking certain maps, but I still feel like it's a much more optimal experience in comparison to CSGO. So in my opinion, Valorant edges out CSGO in terms of competitive. Not by much, but I still think it's better. Explanation will cover stuff such as balance and pretty much how smooth gameplay wise the game is. Honestly, in my opinion, CSGO is a very balanced game, since it doesn't really rely on any sort of gimmicks or abilities. Winning rounds and getting strong weapons really depend on how well your team is at working together and aiming, and therefore, you're able to buy the stronger weapons. Even though in CS's history, there were moments where weapons were overtuned, like the infamous Arit release, or when the Krieg and Aug were buffed, but in general, since CSGO is just such a basic shooter game, honestly, balance really isn't relied on in-game reasons, rather just based on the input by players, since each gun can be rewarding but also hurt the team. Sure, an AK is the weapon of choice and gives one-shot headshots, but is counteracted by being quite pricey and having a difficult spray pattern. In Valorant's case, however, personally, I don't think that the guns are really overtuned, but the fact there are champions and abilities in the game just changes the playing field. Of course, each champion would have their own role, since any good team would have a well-balanced team of abilities to focus on different aspects of the game. But that is not to say that each agent is completely balanced. But honestly, it could depend on perspective. If you look at it from a solo queue perspective, an agent like Reyna could be considered overpowered, since she has a kit that allows her to solo carry a game. But if you look at overall team impact, a character like Brimstone could be considered overpowered, since the agent's kit has pure utility and can decide those game-changing rounds. But stats tell the whole story, and if you see the pick rates and win rates of certain agents, there's a big disparity. The most picked agents are those solo carry type agents like Jett, Raze, or Reyna, and the recent additions of Skye and Killjoy have resulted in sky-high get it? Win rates, and you can argue that these new champions being released are overpowered. But honestly, it's hard to identify balance since there are so many perspectives in Valorant. But I feel like balance is a lot more questionable in Valorant compared to CSGO, and that honestly could be due to that CSGO has just been around so much longer, which allowed people to become comfortable with the game and for gameplay to feel more refined. In conclusion, in my opinion, I prefer CSGO in terms of gameplay. I have played CSGO a lot more, but as of now, I still consider it the superior type in terms of gameplay. This does not take away the fact that Valorant is still a very good FPS game, and honestly, it's really hard to judge which is better, since Valorant could excel in aspects that CSGO lacks in. And since the game is still quite new, it has a lot of room to improve and become better. But in the end, I still feel like CSGO is able to capture that better all-around gameplay experience. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. I've never made a video like this before and spent a lot of time on it, so I'd appreciate it if you guys liked and subscribed. And maybe I'd make more content like this. Anyway, thank you guys, and have a great rest of your day.